1 week from tomorrow. Okay, folks. Thank you for being here. It's nice to see you here. Hopefully a few more people will wander in, but they're going to miss this announcement that I'm going to make here in a moment. First of all, part of the presentation concerning anti-aging approaches deals with products, and we don't do business on Sabbath and so forth and so on. So Dr. Casey has asked me if we could do something a little bit different, and that is tomorrow between 11 and 12. 11 and 12? Between 11 and 12, he will continue what he's going to start today, and at that time he'll tell you what you can get to help this process of combating the aging process. Is that a good way to put it? So I'd just like to show of hands, how many of you plan to show up tomorrow for a consultation? Please raise your hands high. Okay, well, if only that many people show up, you may be leaving early to go see your wife. In any case, he's going to do a live blood culture, do you call it? Live blood cell analysis. And then at 11 o'clock, we'll have the second presentation, or the third, in a sense, for the weekend. And
question.
Yeah.
Is the live blood cell analysis, is that a finger prick?
Right.
Okay, so it's not fasting.
No.
Now, how did you know that it wasn't fasting from that information? Never mind, you're a nurse. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, well, we're glad you're here. And let's start off with prayer, though, okay? Father in heaven, we know that it is your intention that we live forever, that we never stop living. But sin has intervened, and it's our fault. And some of our habits work against our longevity. We pray that the time we spend here this afternoon will bless us with insight, information that will help us to take better care of these body temples that you have given to us. Now bless Dr. Casey as he presents. We pray that we will be blessed for it. And Lord, throughout this weekend, I pray that we will have again, as we have had in the past when he's been here, situations where people have really been very blessed in their health because of his ministry. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, good afternoon. Turned out to be a beautiful Sabbath day, hadn't it, weather-wise? It's really a good time of year. It's a good time of year in the desert, too, right now. It's not hot. I have so many things to share that might take hours, so I'm trying to figure out in my own mind where to begin. I'll begin with the aging process and then get into diet, because diet is very critical with the aging process as well. And why do we age? Well, scientists have finally figured it out. How many in here, I'd like to see a show of hands, know what a telomere is? About 5 of you. A telomere. It's been in the news a lot, the telomeres. It's been in a lot of magazines. If people take Life Extension magazine, they'll see several articles about it. And telomeres, just to give the history of it and tell you what they are, they're on every cell of your body. Every cell you have, there's trillions of them in your body. It's on the chromosome, and the chromosome, on top of it is the telomere. It looks like a little X, and on the top of it has a cap. And that cap contains your DNA information. That cap is you. Now, they measure it by bases. Now, what a base is, it's got to be a very small little measurement because it isn't even visible to the naked eye on the cell. And when you're born, you have 10,000 bases. Now, it was discovered originally about 60 years ago by the Russians, and no research was done until the 1990s. In the 1990s, and I'll get back to the telomeres in a minute, the 1990s, Harvard University started studying it, and they were able to determine that this is what causes aging, because as the cell replicates or divides, the telomere gets shorter. The cap on the telomere gets shorter. And by the time we hit my age, it's down to probably about 5,000 bases, and that's when cells start to die, and that's when we start dying. We age. We end up with gray hair. Our hearing may be bad. Our eyes start to go. Aches and pains all over the body. Just a variety of things happen as we get older. We look older. And so they were able then to reverse aging in rats. They would take rats that they prematurely aged. They would be gray with dementia or Alzheimer's. And through a compound to be able to extend those telomeres longer again, and the rats were able to live 26% longer than a normal rat. Not only that, the brains came back to normal from severe Alzheimer's disease to normal. But they couldn't use these compounds on humans because they were toxic for humans. And so in 2009, there were two scientists that basically put their heads together, and they developed a way for humans to be able to reverse aging. In 2011, they came out with what I will talk about tomorrow. But it works. Now, I just give you a couple of testimonies, and I'm going to move into digestion, or that's what it says on my paper, but nutrition. And so, anyway, my wife, for an example. My wife has Lyme disease, as I mentioned this morning. And Lyme disease has a varying types of symptoms. There can be over 100 different symptoms. And they call it the Great Pretender because it actually mimics other types of diseases. She was misdiagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, which is an autoimmune problem. She was diagnosed with having fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and so on. And they tested her. Her blood test years ago came back negative for Lyme. And so they said it's not Lyme. But the test they have is called the Western blot, and it's only correct in about 60% of the cases, so 40% failure on it. So I had her go through a specialty lab that specialized only in Lyme, and it was determined she has Lyme, not only Lyme, but she has sub-infections as a result of it. So we tried everything in the world to be able to bring her back to health, as I mentioned this morning. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that. But the fact is that we finally came up with this solution that can be used for anti-aging at the same time, and it's worked for her. So tomorrow we'll talk more about that. Okay. What does digestion or nutrition have to do with aging? It has a lot to do with it. Our bodies need certain raw materials. And if we don't get those raw materials, then things start to go wrong. They did a study some years ago, the USDA did, and if you can trust the USDA, which I don't trust for a moment, but nevertheless I think the study was right, is that the majority of people in America have chronic disease because they're missing one or more essential nutrient. They have done studies and they have found that we have 45 essential nutrients we have to have in order to maintain health. And most Americans are deficient in more than one. So as a result, we end up with disease. We need certain amino acids that the body can't make. Most of your amino acids the body can convert and make. But there's 8 essential that they cannot make, you have to get from the outside through your food. It's the same with omega-3 and omega-6 essential fatty acid. You have to get it from the outside in your diet. And every person in here is probably fine in omega-6 and linolenic acid because it's in all oils, including dairy and meat. But omega-3 is the problem. We don't find omega-3 in everything, so we have to really supplement with it. I think I told this last year, but I'll tell it again. There was a psychiatrist in the state of Washington. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Oh, good. No hands went. Oh, okay. One person. But anyway, like I said, I'll tell you again. In the state of Washington, this particular psychiatrist wanted to try natural nutrition to be able to get people off their antidepressant drugs, off the various problems in which people would normally, on an outpatient basis, face with a psychiatrist. And so he asked for volunteers, and he got actually 36 volunteers, I believe. He weaned them off their medication, and he gave them high doses of flaxseed oil. Excuse me. And flaxseed oil, of course, contains omega-3, omega-6, and omega-9, and other nutrients as well. And so as a result of that, most of the people were greatly helped by using the flaxseed oil. Some of the depression that people had was totally gone. Some was greatly reduced. It reduced anxiety and panic disorders. Schizophrenia was helped, and so on. So it's something that we need desperately, is to balance out those 45 essential nutrients. Pardon me. I see there was water down here and it's gone. That's okay. Don't worry about it. I'll be all right. But anyway, the way to be able to get those is to be able to prepare for digestion. That's why I said digestion a minute ago, because that's what it says. We have to prepare because as we age, our digestion goes down. Oh, thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. I'll take a quick swallow here. Okay. Yeah, as we age, our digestion goes down. So those of you that I will look at blood tomorrow, probably if you're over 40, I'm going to find that you have a digestive disorder that you probably don't even know about. Some people know about it because they have symptoms. They end up with acid reflux. They might have bloating. They may have constipation or diarrhea. A variety of different problems might come up with the digestion itself. But what happens is that our stomach lining makes hydrochloric acid. And that hydrochloric acid helps to break down the food along with the enzymes that are made in your mouth to be able to prepare it when it flows into the small intestine. It's called chyme is the terminology. Chyme will flow into the small intestine, into the duodenum or duodenum, and that's where absorption starts to take place. But if it's not adequately broken down, you're not going to get all your nutrition. So what we have to do is help the hydrochloric acid production. And of course you don't know. If you're young, most likely you don't have the problem. But if you're between 40 and 50 and there or older, it's probably diminishing. And it could also be the enzymes, which we'll talk about in a moment. But preparing for digestion means that we make sure that our digestive juices are flowing and is working properly. Now, how do we do that? How can we stimulate the digestive juices? And I think I mentioned it last year too, because somebody asked that question. So if I'm repeating myself, don't think I have lost it, because I kind of remember I did. So, but nevertheless, one way is to take a little bit of lemon juice before a meal. Now, not everybody wants to drink lemon juice because it is hard on the teeth, it's hard on the enamel, and it can take its toll after a while, and it is a hassle to be able to juice that lemon. And you want to have fresh lemon juice with the enzymes in it. You buy it bottled in the grocery store, the enzymes are all going to be dead. You want the live enzymes. And so you take a tablespoon of that and maybe an ounce or two of water, and you drink that before a meal. That really helps. Or you can do what I do. Now, some Adventists have a problem with this. I've studied it out, and I really don't, but you have to live up to your own conscience. And that is, I take a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Now, apple cider vinegar isn't the vinegar, I don't believe, that Ellen White talked about in Spirit Prophecy. It really shouldn't be called a vinegar. It's an acid. It's malic acid. It's malic acid that comes from apples. A tablespoon of that in 6 ounces of water, and I want to stress it's got to be at least 6 ounces of water, will do tremendous help, give your digestive tract tremendous help. So you take that before a meal. Now, if you forget, you can take it with or after the meal, and it will help. And if you start to have acid reflux or bloating, take some right then. It usually takes it away in seconds. Now, what happens when you take an antacid? When you take an antacid, you neutralize the digestive juices, and so your food doesn't break down. So that particular meal, you're not going to get the actual nutritional value from it. So remember that it's so important that we prepare the diet. Now, what I mentioned enzymes. You make enzymes in your mouth, but oftentimes people just gulp their food. Anybody relate to that one?
Inhalation therapy.
Yeah, there you go. And so we need to chew. We're probably, most of us in our society are in a hurry. I know I am. I'm constantly very busy. I'm in a hurry. But I've had to learn to slow down when it came to eating. So we want to go slow and chew properly. While we're doing that, the saliva will mix properly with the food particles, and then we will have it ready then for the hydrochloric acid to do what it does, preparing it to go into the small intestine. So that is very, very important. All right. Another problem we have with our foods today is we don't have the food value any longer, do we? You all probably know this already, but the soil's depleted, and part of it is that we've lost tons of our topsoil over the years because we plow fields and leave them dormant, and the wind blows off the topsoil. Not only that, some of it gets soaked down into the ground, others get soaked off into rivers and into the ocean. We can look at the Mississippi River, and a lot of the chemicals and farming chemicals and chicken manure and all this washes down the Mississippi, and we have a dead area out in the ocean as large as this state of New Jersey. Nothing can live there. But this is also happening to our soil. So the only way we can grow crops in some soil is to use chemicals, and those chemicals deplete us even more nutrients. So when we eat those foods, we may be only getting 20, 25%, maybe only 10% of the original nutrition that God put in that plant. This is an example I always use because when I was growing up, my mother did not believe in sugar, and we did not have anything with sugar. We felt very deprived, let me tell you. So anyway, we like going to Grandma's because it was a little different story there. But nevertheless, my mom would give us kids carrots or celery or something as a snack. And I like carrots, so I could eat a whole carrot if it wasn't a real big one. And in those days, everything was grown organically, and we had everything in that carrot that God had provided. Today, I can go to the grocery store and buy that same size carrot, and it only has maybe 15 to 20% of the food value it had when I was a boy. So we have to concentrate, and that's the idea of juicing, fresh juicing, because you can put 7 carrots or whatever it takes to fill up a glass of juice, and I'm getting the nutrition that my body needs. Otherwise, I'm not. We also find that not only is that a problem today, is that I know my grandparents had a farm, and I lived on a chicken farm. We had chickens. We raised chickens. My grandparents had a regular farm where he grew crops, and he had a small dairy farm. It's in the days where the milk truck came twice a day and picked up the milk cans. Small dairy farm. And so it was a good experience for me growing up. But I remember in about 1953, 54, prior to that, everything he grew on that farm was organic. About 1953 or so, they convinced him he needed to plant using chemicals. So he bought the cultivators with the tanks on it and started cultivating with chemicals. And his crop yielded about double that year. And he thought, oh, this is good. So we went into full-fledged chemical farming. Prior to that, he did everything natural. In his alfalfa fields, one year we had a plague of aphids. How he got rid of them, he bought over 1 million ladybugs and put them out on his alfalfa. It took care of the aphid problem. But that's how farmers used to do things, and they knew what to do. Today the farmers don't know. And so things started to have to be sprayed a few years later. It was only 3 or 4 years until you noticed that the ground was pretty dead. The worms were gone. Things just wouldn't grow as well without the chemicals. And as time went on, it even got worse. So you had to have the chemicals in order to have a crop. And those chemicals, of course, infiltrated into the foods in which we ate. Then, that wasn't bad enough, so Monsanto came to the rescue, right? And so they came out with Gmo seeds. And the Gmo seeds that we have today are causing a great many health problems. And there's so many reports out, and particularly coming from our country and from India and other countries that use GMO. You know, China will not allow American corn to enter their country. Maybe they know something we don't know. And we find in some of the African countries the same way. They need it so badly, but they won't allow them to unload American corn because they know it's GMO. But yet, we go to Taco Bell and we get our tostada without cheese, of course, and realizing that it is definitely a GMO product. 70% of the processed foods in which you eat today are GMO or have GMO ingredients. So you don't know what you're eating. We've gotten away from preparing foods ourselves. We've gone the easy way and gone to fast foods and gone to processed foods. And as a result, we're running into a lot of problems with our diet. Now, another problem, I should stick with my notes, I guess. I'm not doing that. But we pick everything green, don't we? So it hasn't matured to the point to where all the nutrition is there. And we take a tomato, we pick it green, we bring it into the store, and it ripes maybe on the shelf, or they use some chemical to make it ripen faster, like bananas. And then we eat it and thinking we're getting nutrition, when we're really not getting much. So it is important, again, to think about preparing foods from scratch and trying to get the best we possibly can. I have people tell me all the time, they said, well, I'm not going to quit eating meat because it's too expensive to be vegetarian. Well, I find it the opposite. I think it's a lot less expensive being a vegetarian than it is eating meat. And speaking of meat, unless it's organic meat, it's full of chemicals and hormones. And what's happening? We end up getting those in our body. It can create health problems themselves. Okay. Well, is health important to each of us? Yes, it is. And so we want to do what we need to do in order to have a good diet. Just a couple more things, and then I'll get into how we should eat, but I'm going to tell you a few things we shouldn't eat, which you already know. And that is junk food. Junk food, it's a major thing. Going into a gas station, what they got? Racks of candy, racks of potato chips or whatever it is, cookies. You could hardly find a thing in there worth eating. And then the fountain drinks are all sugar or aspartame. Did you know that it's proven now that some people drinking diet sodas can end up losing their eyesight with aspartame? If you're on a diet soda, I'd recommend, if you got it at home, pour it out. Don't give it to anybody because it'll poison them. But get rid of that stuff. It's causing brain lesions. It's causing brain tumors. But yet we keep drinking it because we think we're going to lose weight. We will not lose weight with it. We gain weight with it because it actually enhances our appetite. It makes us hungrier. Yeah, we don't get the calories in the soda itself. And how many people now are coming down with kidney problems and other problems today because they drink sodas? You know, part of the laws of health is what? Water. Water is what we need to drink. And water we need to drink an adequate amount, and we wouldn't have all the kidney problems that people have today. We just had, last April, well, a year ago almost now, a man from this area. I won't mention his name because he is Adventist. And he is from another church, not this one. But he was scheduled to go on dialysis. He hadn't quite got to dialysis yet. His kidneys were functioning about 24 or 25%. And he was borderline. And it kept going down, down, down. We brought him out to the ranch, and we did a detoxification and cleansing upon him. And we got him drinking water with lemon juice in it. And today, his kidneys are functioning at about 60%. He's out of danger. He's as happy as he can be. And, on top of it, he was type 2 diabetic. And he was taking, I think, metformin. And he no longer needs that drug. So it worked both ways for him. Because he made a change. He made the commitment that I am going to eat for health and not gluttony. You know, there was a couple of people that did a series of videos back in the early 90s called Let's Eat, and that was their slogan. Eat for health and not for gluttony. And gluttony is something that we all are guilty of. I've been guilty of it. And on rare occasions still slip once in a great while, like my donuts, like I said. I don't eat donuts anymore, by the way. But there may be something comes along. Now, if I have one of my granddaughters have a birthday, I will have a little piece of birthday cake. I'm not going to disappoint my granddaughters. But anyway, the fact is, I don't eat that on a regular basis. But the thing, if we have a disease, well, we need to totally make a commitment towards overcoming our perverted appetite. And I have to be the first to admit that mine was definitely perverted at one time. So, but today, it doesn't seem to be. Another thing is we want to give up on sugar, or at least cut it down 90% probably of what we should take. The average American eats between 140 and 160 pounds of sugar every year. And if you're eating junk food, it's not only sugar, it's high fructose corn syrup. Now, where does high fructose corn syrup come from? GMO corn. So you got a double whammy there. And if you look at the labels, you will find, I like to go and read labels on even junk food just to see what's in there. You find that in candies, things like this, they usually use high fructose corn syrup today. And another factor is that the devil has a way of trying to destroy our food, and he's sure doing a job on us, is that here in California we grow a lot of sugar beets. And we make sugar out of the sugar beets, and the sugar beets for the most part are now GMO. So you buy GMO sugar and use it for your cooking. The only pure sugar basically today would be cane sugar. It's not pure, but cane sugar, if you're going to use sugar. So read the labels. Get away from it anyway. Make a commitment that you're going to make changes. And how do we make a change? In most cases, you can't change overnight. You have to give one thing up and replace it with something good, give something else up, replace it with something good, and do this until you get to the goal in which you want to get to. Some years ago, I tried to, what I tried to do was I tried to go from point A to Z overnight. This is a long time ago. I listened to this couple who came through our church, this is 20-some years ago, they ate nothing but raw foods, and they looked so healthy, so good, they looked so young compared to their age. I said, I'm going to do that. So I went from Sabbath, Sunday, I'm 100% vegan, vegetarian, raw. I lost 20 pounds. I felt horrible. And finally I went back to eating some cooked foods. Well, I didn't transition into it. It wasn't for me at that particular time. You have to transition into things. If you try to go from point A to Z, I'll guarantee you, you'll be back to point A. It just doesn't work. But go from one thing to another slowly. But the best way to do when it comes to improving your diet is to write it down and to have a plan. If you don't write that plan down, you'll never do it. It's just like going on a goal, a life goal. If you haven't written it down and made a plan, you probably won't achieve that life goal. It would be the same with the diet in which you eat. Fats. Fats affect the whole body, including the brain. The brain is made up of 60% fat, and it's the fat in which you eat. Now, if you eat Doritos, you're going to have a Dorito brain. I'm serious. And if you know what do you put in your brain? How many people today, when they reach in their 50s, their memories start to fade away? We don't want that. That's not normal. People think, oh, it's normal. I'm getting old, and I'm going to get forgetful. Well, we program ourselves that way too. It doesn't have to be that way. One of my mentors, and I think I mentioned him last time I was here, but his name was Dr. Raymond Knoll. He lived up in Pollock Pines, California. That's on the way to Lake Tahoe, a beautiful place. And he was a country doctor, graduated from Loma Linda. And he used to come to my home when he would come down to Loma Linda for his class reunions. He was the only one left. He was 97 years old. In his class, he was the only one alive. So he'd come down and, believe it or not, drive a fifth wheel at 97 years old. And he'd stay in the fifth wheel, our house there, a couple nights. And he said, call your neighbors and friends. I'm going to give a lecture. He did that one time. Here he is, 97. I called my neighbors and friends, and he gave a lecture on the health without missing a beat, without one note. Now, I have to have notes, but he didn't have to. His mind was sharp. He wrote a book, How to Live to be 101 and Enjoy It. He died in his 101st year with a clear mind all of those years because he practiced what he preached. And he took in the right amount of fat for his brain in the form of flaxseed oil. That's how he did it. That's how he got me into flaxseed oil, and he made such a believer on me about that. Now, with the brain, I might as well mention this when it comes to nutrition. And that is, we also need other elements. We need amino acids, proteins. And those proteins oftentimes have to come from the outside. One is tryptophan. It is an amino acid that the brain needs in order to keep you happy. It's a happy amino acid or protein. And it helps your serotonin levels to actually balance themselves out and to give you adequate amount of serotonin to help with depression and other anxiety and so on. If you're on an SSRI drug, that's a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor drug, do not take tryptophan until you get off the drug. They don't get along, so you don't want to do that. But if you're not, and you have a tendency towards depression or anxiety or panic disorders, you might want to consider supplementing with some tryptophan. And it really does make a difference. So amino acids are important. And another thing is very, very important is B vitamins. When I do your blood tomorrow, those of you I'm going to do, you will find that many of you're low in B vitamins. Now, it doesn't tell me which B, it just shows. And the way I can see it in the blood is that you will have red blood cells that are larger than normal. And that's B vitamin deficiency. If we look in the blood and we find little small ones, that could be vitamin E deficiency and vitamin A. So the blood tells me the story about the deficiencies that people have. And so that's why I've looked at it for my own self and my wife, and so that we could eat the right foods where we show deficiency in our blood. I think it's kind of important. So you want to be able to eat the right things and keep going. Okay, getting back into my I've already covered half of this. See, it's what happens when you don't stay with your outline, then all of a sudden you can't find where you were. Well, here is what we should do to prepare for a meal. And one of the things is that we should not drink water. You probably all know this and probably don't do it anyway, but you shouldn't drink water half an hour before a meal, because it dilutes the digestive juices. And it takes longer for the system to break the food down. It has to get the water out first. And by that time, we're probably taking in more water. And we should not have water for an hour and a half after we eat. And that helps digestion immensely. And again, if we're used to eating too fast, we're going to have a liquid probably to push it down. So if we chew better, we won't need that liquid. And our foods will break down even far better. Okay, what else do I have on my list? Okay, I was going to talk about, is anybody in here, I'm going to skip over this, anybody in here drinking alkaline water? No? Oh, more than I thought. Okay, I will talk about it. Alkaline water, if you're drinking alkaline water, then again, you definitely do not want to cook with it. And you want to use neutral 7.0 water, or as close to that as you can get. And you do not want to drink alkaline water the same half hour before a meal and an hour and a half after a meal. The reason is it will neutralize the digestive juices, just like taking a Tom. And then you're not going to get the nutrition that your body needs. So I think that's really, really important. Well, the next thing I wanted to do is get into diet. I want to get into a couple of vitamins in which we all need and give you a list of foods that they're in. And you'll be surprised that there is lots of vitamins and minerals in the foods that we eat, but a lot of the foods that you probably don't like have maybe more than the ones you do like. So, first of all, let's look at vitamin A and vitamin A, and to a big extent vitamin C. These same foods have a lot of other vitamins in it too, but these are specific for it. But first of all, I want to tell you what a lack of vitamin A will do to you. And this is only a partial list I wrote down because there's far many other areas. One, it can affect your vision if you don't have adequate vitamin A. Two, night vision. It affects that. Skin. Did you know acne sometimes is caused by a lack of vitamin A and other skin conditions? Immunity, your immune system, can be affected with the lack of it. Also, cancer formation can be eliminated or greatly reduced by adequate vitamin A or beta-carotene, which I would prefer to see people, if they're going to supplement, use a beta-carotene, because the liver will convert it to vitamin A, as much vitamin A as your body needs. You can overdo taking vitamin A itself. Also, bones and teeth are greatly strengthened by vitamin A. Fat storage protects from colds and influenza, kidney infections, bladder infections, lung infections. The mucous membranes are strengthened by adequate vitamin A, and oxidative stress is greatly cut down. It's an antioxidant. But here are just a list of the foods. This might get a little boring, so I only have done it for a couple. Is first of all, green and yellow vegetables are high in vitamin A. So it's color-coded. Get those greens. Now, greens have about everything in it. Apricots, high in it. Asparagus, beet greens, cantaloupe, carrots, collards, dandelion greens, sea vegetation such as dulse. I know some of you are writing, so I'm going too fast maybe. I'll slow down. But the fact is that these are foods that we can get readily and be able to get vitamin A. Kale and mustard greens are high in it. Papayas, believe it or not. And the problem is that I understand that a lot of the papayas being imported today are GMO. Probably not all of them, But, a lot of the trees were around before GMO. But it's a sad situation. It really is. Peaches, pumpkins, Swiss chard, spinach, sweet potatoes, and many, many other foods have adequate vitamin A in it. So it's something you might want to consider. And then I'm going to do one more like that, and that's vitamin B. Vitamin B helps with healthy nerves. It's great for the brain. The brain needs, in order to function properly, vitamin B. And it needs all the vitamin B, not just one. Oftentimes people come to me and say, well, I take sublingual vitamin B12. Well, that's good, but how about the other Bs? We can get it in our foods, and I think I talked about, I think it was an individual, I don't think I mentioned this the last service, but I get my vitamin B from nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast has all the vitamin Bs in it. And the way I eat it is I sometimes will do it this way. Sometimes I put it on salad. I mix it sometimes with my oatmeal or some other hot grain that I may be eating. But I put it on my toast. I'm a bread eater. I'm trying to get away from gluten, which is near impossible for me, but I'm trying. But because oatmeal has gluten in it. But I'm trying to get away from the wheat gluten. Why? Because they have hybrid the wheat to such a degree that so many people are allergic or have a food allergy to the wheat itself. And that is because when God originated the wheat, it had 2 to 3 genes in it. Today it has over 60 because of people messing with God's wheat. And now the reason they did that is wheat used to grow this high. They wanted it down like this for the thrashing machines. It was to accommodate their harvest. And so they brought it down. And now we have that today. I did a live sale Thursday on a couple who are farmers in North Dakota. And they're wheat farmers. And we had quite a discussion over GMO versus non-GMO because they believe in it. Now, we ended friends, but with a little stress. Because I certainly don't believe in it at all. And they said, well, at this point, all they have is hybrid wheat. But they said, we grow corn too, and it is GMO. We buy our seeds from Monsanto, from a company that owned by Monsanto. So we had our discussion. They feel that they can feed the world with that, but I don't agree. I don't think we can. I have a friend, I've mentioned her before, and that's Dr. Lorraine Day. And she did a mathematical equation, took the population of the earth and figured out on a vegetarian diet how much land would be needed to feed the whole earth. That came out the land the size of the state of Texas. If we could grow food on that size of land, we could feed the whole earth. So GMO isn't the answer. The answer is to eat properly and eat more of the fruits and vegetables God produced, not man. Okay, vitamin B. It also affects the skin, just like vitamin A does. The eyes, the hair, the liver, the mouth, and it's definitely critical for the brain. Absolutely, the brain has to have vitamin B if you want to keep good memory. Gastrointestinal problems and energy. It will help the energy situation. Well, let's talk about energy next, and then we'll get into nutrition a little deeper. Why do we have, in this day and age, for the most part, people with low energy levels? Most people do, you know. The majority of people that I talk with, I ask them, how's your energy levels? And, well, it's not like it used to be or not what I'd like it to be. So I've done a study on it. And in each of your cells, you have the mitochondria. And the mitochondria is the powerhouse. This is what produces ATP. Adenosine triphosphate is what ATP stands for. And it produces that, and that's what gives you your energy. But today, we don't have the right fuel for the mitochondria. And as a result, chronic fatigue and other fatigue problems in which people have. And so we need to work on the mitochondria. And there's certain things that really will boost the ATP in addition to coffee and caffeine. A lot of people use the caffeine products because it helps give them the energy they need. But there comes a point, what's called the vanishing returns that we have by using coffee, in that there comes a point where it doesn't work anymore if we've used it for years and we don't get that boost that you got when you first started drinking it. That's not the answer. One thing is what the mitochondria needs, again, is the nutrition in order to fuel it. And one thing, if you want to really boost your energy levels up, you could take coenzyme Q10, CoQ10. Every cell of your body needs CoQ10. And that's something. It's also great for the heart and for other symptoms of the body itself. But it will give you energy. And the anti-aging program that I started to talk about also literally does anti-age the cell and does give energy, which I will not talk about today. If you're interested in that, we'll talk about it at 11 o'clock tomorrow. So what foods have vitamin B in it? Well, one again, as I mentioned, would be the nutritional yeast. Brown rice has quite a bit of it. Also, we find that legumes, peanuts, peas all have it. Rice bran, wheat germ, whole grains, asparagus, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. Now, those are areas people don't like. How many people like Brussels sprouts? I do. Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Boy, there's quite a few in there. I eat Brussels sprouts all the time. Well, I will say all the time, but on occasion. Sea veggies, such as kelp, dulse, nori, all of those. And I don't know about it today, because Fukushima is still putting out a lot of radiation into the ocean. And as you know, we're getting it here on the west coast. Pardon me. And you go, the further north you go, the worse it is. And another problem with that is that it could be in the seaweed that's been harvested, unless it's been harvested up in the North Atlantic area. So I pretty well quit eating it. I used to buy this nori at Costco, or seaweed at Costco. I don't do it anymore. I'm afraid of it. Because that is a major health problem today. There's going to be, if time lasts, in 4 or 5 years, we're going to find more and more people with lung cancer, thyroid cancer, and other cancers related to radiation. And you probably heard this, but the milk produced on the West Coast is all contaminated with radiation. That when Fukushima, not Fukushima, when help me in Ukraine. Yeah, thank you. When that exploded, it affected the west coast of America at that time. They did studies, but they would not release it to the public. The milk was contaminated at that time. Could it be that that's why young adults today, more and more of them are coming down with cancer? They've had that radiation in their body since I think it was 1988 that happened. And I know myself that when I was doing missionary work in the Ukraine shortly after the communism fell, every year we went back, the cancer rates doubled in the Ukraine. And we're hearing a lot about the Ukraine today, but not in that sense. But there's a lot of cancer that went on there. And we worked with a lot of cancer patients. So it's important that we know this. And I tell people, you shouldn't eat cheese, but if you're going to buy cheese, make sure it's from Wisconsin, not from California, or not from Tillamook, or something like that, because it could be contaminated with radiation today. It's better just to leave it alone. You know, you can go in and get a bean burrito without cheese. They might think you're a little weird, but when you order it, but you could do that. Now you got the white flour to contend with. If I'm hungry, I pretty well like to go to a grocery store and just eat that if I can find anything in there. But the thing is that it's a problem. And Satan is attacking people today. And we're going to see. Today, science tells us that children being born today will be the first generation that will not outlive their parents. That their life expectancy will be 10 years or more less than what their parents were. That degenerative disease will start striking children 10 to 15 years earlier than what their parents might have. Isn't that a terrible thing? It's because of all that I've talked about already. You put it all together, and we have a deadly poison that's taking out many people in our country. I'm just going to make a couple more comments, and then I'll open it up for questions. I do need to get into the nutrition part of it real quick, which I haven't done. I guess I have. I have it divided out. And if you will turn with me in your Bibles to 1 Corinthians 10:31, just real quickly. I just want to read one verse. 10:31. Whether therefore ye eat or drink, or whatsoever ye do, do all to the glory of God. So whatever we eat, whatever we drink, we should do it to the glory of God. You know, we can go to Revelation 3, and the last verse, about the third verse from the end, it says that the Lord is standing at the door and knocking. You remember that verse? Yeah. And there's no doorknob on the artist's conception, and we have to open the door from the inside. If we let the Lord into our home, I'm talking about the temple body, do we really want Him to come into our kitchen and see what we eat? How about what we drink? Do we really want Him to see what it's all about? Well, He sees it anyway. He knows all things. What we should have in there, we should be proud of our kitchen. One of the things we've been doing at the ranch, we've been doing our programs for 23 years. And I'd be surprised at nighttime and other times I found people going through our pantry. They just want to see what we eat. They want to see if we're telling the truth about what we eat. And they can't find anything bad there because we don't have it. But the fact is that we can't fool the Lord. And we need to have the nutrition to make the temple body strong. And you're going to get into the New Start program, and nutrition is the number one as the in and the new. And so let's just take a quick look at it for right quickly. First of all, we talked about that already. That's what happens when I don't stay with my outline. We need to have complete foods. We were told a couple centuries ago that we should grow our own food. And I'm just going to kind of end on this and I'll open up for questions. But we live in the cities and it's hard to do that. We live in the desert. I've tried to garden out there, and every varmint for 100 miles said, "Oh, something green, yummy." And we fenced it. We've done everything we think of. Now they crawl under the fence. They dig under the ground squirrels. It's just near impossible. I remember I had planted a beautiful garden. It was coming up, and I had all these beautiful plants. And the next morning I got up, and all I had was 2 tomato plants left. And I planted companion plants to be able to keep the varmints away. They ate them too. So last year I said, this is it. I'm tired. I'm not going to do it anymore. Now I have somebody at the ranch that tells me that they can do it and that they know how to grow in the desert. So we're going to see what happens. But it is a problem. But yet at the same time, we need to eat as best we can. We need to eat the fruits and vegetables as close to nature as possible and as close to organic as we can. I realize that organic foods are more expensive, but yet, what's your health worth? Now, if you just can't afford it, that's one thing. But if you can, I would definitely get into the organic foods. And because you're going to get more food value, plus you won't have all the chemicals on it. So you want to go to a reputable place that would have the foods. And you probably we have a large health food store where we are down in the low desert. And we can get all the organic that we need. And that's where we go. I go once a week and buy organic. Now it's an hour down, an hour back. It's a pain to have to do that. But we always surmise, what's our health worth? It's worth taking the time to do it. And so I just want to recommend that to each person. Now, what is a good way to start eating a good meal? First of all, we want to identify the idols which we talked about this morning. What is it? Is your idol sugar? Maybe it's chocolate. Well, did you know that dark chocolate is one of the highest antioxidants on the planet? It's what's in it is the problem. Cocoa chocolate is good if you can get healthy chocolate. Because to give you an idea, and these numbers may not be exact, but you can take a cup of blueberries, and the way they measure it is by ORAC value, and you can take the ORAC value as oxygen radicals, blah, 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 whatever it is. And then they take that ORAC value, and with a cup of blueberries, about 1,200, approximately, give or take. One square of dark chocolate that's been healthily preserved or made has 37,000. It's the highest there is. So you only need to eat one square a day. Now, people don't need to eat the whole thing, but that's my problem. I don't buy it because I like to eat the whole thing. I say, I'll just have a square. Half hour later, I'm going to have another square. It won't hurt. A half hour later, I'm going to have another one. So I just can't do it. I got to discipline myself better. So we need to do that is to eat a good balance. So we know that we need to have fruits, vegetables, nuts, and grains. In sprouting, there's a place for that. We can sprout, and my wife sprouts. She mung beans. She sprouts once in a while alfalfa and other types of things. And she eats it by the handful. I eat it as well. Not as much as she does, but she eats a lot of it. And she's getting a lot of nutrition from that. Excuse me just a second. I have a little more water. We need to get away from the artificial sweeteners. Aspartame. Aspartame has 3 elements in it. Phenylalanine, which is an amino acid, aspartic acid, and alcohol. And it's causing a great many health problems today. If you're going to drink soda, and I hope you don't, but if you do drink soda, go with the sugar. But the problem with the sugar, again, is you're going to find it is high fructose corn syrup. That's what they're using in sodas today. And this is going to deplete more of the nutrition. When you take sugar in, when it comes out of the body, it's more nutritious than when it went in. It will drain your B vitamins out of your system. So you do not want to take sugar in. You want to eat raw nuts whenever possible. Well, California's made given us a little problem with that, in that it has to be brought up to a certain temperature now to kill the enzymes, and because somebody got sick one time. But we can prescribe a drug that kills people, and that's okay, but we can't have raw almonds. The only way that I found raw almonds in California is in Vaughn's. Vaughn's has the Safeway brand, and right on the label says raw almonds. So it must come from another state. If they were produced here, they would have to be heated. I noticed that Trader Joe's no longer has raw almonds. They took it off the label. They have the almonds, they look raw, but they've been heated. And it kills the enzymes. So we want to eat nuts. As I brought nuts with me, I brought some raw nuts. I had some raw almonds and walnuts that I brought with me, and I had some last night. And there's a lot of food value in nuts, but be careful because you'll put weight on. And this is a problem that we have in our country today, is obesity, don't we? I can remember when I first started out in the health work 20 some odd years ago, that one of the people that I used to go to the homes. I don't have time to do that anymore, but I used to go to homes. And the wife called me and says, my husband has had 3 major heart attacks. He needs help. Will you come over? I said, sure. So I went over. It was about 5:15 in the evening. And the man was sitting in a lounge chair. In a recliner. And he was big as a house. And so, anyway, I asked him, I sat down, he said, I really don't want to talk to you. He says, I don't care what my wife says. I don't want to hear what you got to say. Why? I'm looking for a way out. And so he needed to get up and go to the bathroom. So he gets up and goes to the bathroom, and he hardly made it. He was huffing and puffing so bad. He finally came back to the chair and he plopped. I mean, I thought the chair was going to fall apart. So anyway, I'm sitting there, I've got to bring up the diet. And then pretty soon his wife brings his dinner to him on a TV tray, a sizzling T-bone steak with a big pile of French fries. I said, oh, how am I going to get out of this one? So I'm praying. And so he starts munching on his food. I said, well, would you like to talk about diet? And he says, I don't want to talk about food. He says, I'd rather have a few good meals and die than to eat like you, because you eat like a rabbit. I won't eat that way. I says, okay. All right. I looked for a way to get out of there, and I did. He got his few good meals because about 2.5 months later he was dead. So the fact is, his diet was his God. It was more important to him than having health and eating the right kinds of foods. And it can be, maybe in a lesser degree, to most of us. We need to look at our diet. That is the number one cause of disease today. Cancer, for the most part, is caused by diet. Heart disease, diet. Diabetes, diet. And you can go down the line, it's mostly diet. You can throw in the other laws of health that are being violated to add to the problem. We've got to start with diet and be able to have and maintain a good, healthy diet. If you would do that, you can have health. And you can live a long life. And you can be like Dr. Noel, to live. Maybe you don't want to live to 100, but he did, with a clear mind. His body was starting to wear out, but his mind was still good. And it came to a point, one day he just went to bed and didn't wake up. The next morning he had gone to sleep. That's the way God means for us to go. He doesn't mean for us to go with disease, laying in a hospital with people that are paid to be there, sticking wires and tubes and things in our body. There's another one that I think I told last year. I'll tell this one. And when I was in Australia going through training a long time ago, we had a man come to the sanitarium. He was 90 years old. He came in, he'd been a vegan vegetarian since he was 60 years old, still healthy. He says, I'm not here for myself, I'm here for my wife. He says, my wife is very ill. He says, and she's my third wife. I've outlived the other two, and I'm too old to go find another one. Oh, we all laughed. We were just trying to keep from laughing, you know. So we put her through, and he went on to say, and she's a lot younger than me. Well, she was 86. So anyway, so we actually put her through a program, and she responded very well. It did very well. They went home. And I was back in the States when I heard about this. But 2 years later, she called Living Valley Springs, which is an Adventist facility over in Queensland, Australia, and said, this morning my husband was happy singing hymns. He went out into his vegetable garden, was out there working. He says he sings all day long. She said it was quiet. So I went out to investigate. He was laying by his tomatoes, had a smile on his face, and had gone to sleep in the Lord. But what a way to go. I'd rather go that way, wouldn't you? So I was 92 years old at that point. It was his time. So we can live a life like that. That's the whole thing. If we will just give up on our appetite that we like so much, the sugar, the aspartame, the high fats, and get into a diet that's good. There's probably no one that was on a worse diet than I was before I became an Adventist and a health performer. When I became an Adventist, I said, well, I want to be a vegetarian. I quit eating meat, but boy, did I make up for it with the cheese. Tons of cheese. I thought, well, this is being a vegetarian. I didn't know. And then later on, I found, oh, no, I shouldn't be eating the cheese. I don't know why it says cheese should never enter the mouth. So I gave up on the cheese, and I lost weight. I was a little overweight at that point. I lost weight. I started feeling better. But what do I do now? What do I do for protein? We have a protein fixation in this country today. How many people have you ever known that had a protein deficiency? Probably none. Nobody has a protein deficiency. It's in everything. If we're eating a vegetarian diet, we're getting it the same place the cows get it and the cattle get it. We're getting it firsthand instead of secondhand. And all of a sudden now you got to have whey protein. You got to have these drinks. And the health food store, the one we go to, has a long shelf with every type of whey drink you can think of in there. And yes, and we get the idea when we have blood sugar problems, we need to have protein. And some people do react low protein. But again, it's their digestion is not taking in the protein that they normally would have. So they have to get this concentrations in order to bring the protein up to where their blood sugar works right. I know a lady today, I know a couple of them actually, that they would like to be vegetarians, but they eat a lot of chicken, turkey, and some fish because they feel they have to have the protein. Well, if they let us help them with their digestion, I don't believe they would need that any longer, because they both do have digestive problems. But they've got this in their mind, got to have the protein, got to have the protein. And we're cutting our life down as a result. So eat your greens. And as I said last year, do the green smoothies. And those of you who weren't here last year, I'll go over it real quickly again. But if you eat the green smoothies, you will find that diseases will start to fade away in many cases. And we have proven that. I want to give you a little testimony of a man we had come to our program in October, so it hadn't been that long ago. He Adventist man, he was a custodian for a school district for some odd years, and he developed liver cancer, probably from the chemicals in which he was around his cleaning materials. And so we cleansed him, but before we cleansed him, before he came to the program, he and his wife came out to interview me and to see our facility to see if they wanted to send him to us. When he came, he was in a great deal of pain because the liver cancer that he had metastasized into the lining of the lungs. And he refused to take morphine. He did not want to do chemo or radiation. He didn't want to do anything with the medical. He wanted to do all natural. So he sat down. When we were through and ready to leave, he couldn't get out of the chair. The pain was so great. I had to help him and help him to the car. He could hardly walk. When he came 2 weeks later and went through our program, he was in the same condition. We started working with him, and we cleansed him, and we gave him a certain product, which I'll talk about tomorrow. And when he left, the pain was totally gone, 100%. Never has come back. I saw him 3 weeks ago. And the cancer tumors, we believe, has shrank. And his son came out to the ranch for me to do a live blood cell on his son, which was a teenager, about a month ago. I said, "How's your dad?" He says, "You won't believe it. He's 74 years old. He's up on top of the roof nailing shingles in today." Now, at 74, he shouldn't be up there to begin with. But he couldn't move just in October. God's plan works. But he had to change his diet. He's on the green smoothies every single day. He's drinking 2 or 3 a day. And the way you make them is you put water in your blender about half full. And if you really want it good, you don't put fruit in it, you put lemon. I peel the yellow off the lemon if it's not organic. If it's organic, I wash it thoroughly and put the peel and all in it. They have found that lemon works in some cases as well as chemotherapy, but no side effects other than good health. So we put that in a little bit of Himalayan salt, and I load it's a Vitamix. I load it with greens, spinach, parsley, kale, sometimes greens from dandelion, endive, other times romaine lettuce, and I blend it down, and my wife and I drink that whole thing full each day. And as a result, I attribute a lot of our good health to that because it's alkalized our body. Now, somebody was talking about alkalinity versus acid. And I'd like to explain that quickly, why some people are acid. We're acid throughout our body except for our blood. Our blood is never acid. It's always, if you understand the pH scale, 7 is neutral, below 7 is acid, above 7 is alkaline. And our blood is always 7.35 to 7.4. But if we do not eat alkaline foods, and we're not bringing it from the outside, the body has to take it from the bones in order to keep the blood where it needs to be. We end up with bone problems, osteoporosis, osteopenia. But if we eat the green leafy vegetables, there's plenty of nutrition there to be able to help keep our body balanced properly, and we don't have to rob Peter to pay Paul inside the human body. So it's important. If you drink this, yes, it tastes green, it tastes a little lemony, but the fact is, what is the benefit you're getting? Do we always have to have something that tastes wonderful? You know, in America, we feast every single day. Most countries, third world countries, maybe have meals like we have every day, once a week, once a month. They eat very simple diets because they can't afford it. But we feast every day. And we need to think about that and get into a very simple lifestyle. I'll tell you mine, and then I'm going to open up for questions. And I barely scratched the surface. My diet, basically in the morning, is that I eat fruit. I always have toast, whole grain toast. I put flaxseed oil on my toast and my nutritional yeast on top of that. And then I eat usually a cooked cereal of some kind. Sometimes it's quinoa, kamut. Sometimes it's oatmeal. It can be something of that nature. Then for lunch, I eat organic tomato and romaine lettuce on bread with usually something that I might put on veganaise or something like that. I will sometimes then eat toast with a good nut butter on it. I don't eat a lot of food. I'm not a big eater. But then in the evening, I will have a fruit smoothie. My wife makes them every night. The fruit smoothie is a cup of blueberries for each of us, other ripe fruits like a ripe banana, puts it in the Vitamix along with some nutrients, liquid minerals, and we have that along with flaxseed oil. We have that in the evening. My mind works pretty well for my age. And I'm in pretty good health, and I give praise to God, not to myself. I do nothing, because I could be struck down tomorrow if I start bragging about myself. But the fact is that we have seen this work with other people. Even my wife with her Lyme disease has greatly helped, and it's come a long way. So I want to encourage you to look at your diet. Don't just say, oh, well, you know, what he said was right, and forget it. But do something about your diet. If you want to have a healthy mind and a healthy body every day of your life, however long that might be. I'll open it up for questions now. Does anybody have any? Yes, ma'am.
So many of the dietary dietitians and medical professionals are touting Splenda instead of traditional sugar or any of the other sugar sweeteners.
Okay.
You know, it's not still the best, but...
Hold on just a minute. They want to put it on the tape, I think. Okay, thank you. Not turned on?
The medical professionals and registered dietitians tout Splenda, where they would rather replace the sugars with Splenda.
Not working. There. No.
Just repeat the question.
Anyway, I'll go. Here comes another one. Yeah. Oh, that one works.
Okay, so the question has to do with medical professionals and diabetic educators and dietitians are recommending Splenda instead of aspartame. We know that is also highly processed.
Right.
And probably not recommended, but does it do the same thing as aspartame?
To my knowledge, no. It does not do the same thing as aspartame. It's probably a healthier choice, although we don't know long-term what it might do. And I don't use Splenda. I just use raw honey for sweetening. I get it from a beekeeper rather than buy it in a grocery store or wherever, and because it's truly raw that way.
But what about for diabetics?
Diabetics, for sweeteners, raw honey hasn't seemed to be a major problem with that because it's raw. Now, if you get honey in the grocery store, it might say raw on the label, but it's not. It's been heated, and when it's heated, it loses its enzymes. And in its raw state, it has medicinal value to it. Yeah. Okay. This gentleman has... Oh, this over here. Sorry.
Hello. I'm so thankful you mentioned the green smoothies and not using the fruit, and because all these others that we see advertised have fruit and vegetables. But you did say lemon. Why is it that I know Sister White says don't mix fruit and vegetables, but we are squeezing lemon juice on our salads, and like you said, use it in the green smoothie. What makes lemon different? Is it not a fruit or?
Okay. Good question. Sister White's, of course, as you mentioned, stated that we should not mix our fruits and vegetables. But she was only talking to one person. All of the quotes are the same, and all the books are the same quote. And she's also said otherwise, and I don't mix my fruits and vegetables, but if I can't get the vegetables down somebody without putting the right banana in the mix, and it doesn't bother their digestion, then we do it. If it bothers your digestion, absolutely stay away from it. But the fact is that sometimes, for an example, Gerson therapy, not far from here, out of Mexico, they use apple with carrot juice. They make it more palatable for people to be able to drink the juice. There are 3 juices that are neutral that you can use with vegetables. That would be apple, grapefruit, I'm sorry, not grapefruit, pineapple, and vegetable juice. Those you can use. It will not normally cause a problem. But again, if you have digestive, you probably feel bloated or you feel a little acid refluxy or stomach ache, then don't mix it. But that would be my answer. Okay. Anyone else?
Can you take CoQ10 along with glutathione?
Take CoQ10 along with what? I'm sorry?
Glutathione.
Glutathione? I don't know, to be honest with you, whether there'd be any interference with it at all. I wouldn't think so. But if there's any doubt in your mind, I would take it separately at a separate time. Okay.
I had a question about, do you eat any legumes?
I'm sorry again?
Do you eat any dried beans or legumes?
We do eat legumes.
No, I said, do you eat them? Like, do you eat lentils or black-eyed peas?
Would somebody help me? Because of the echo, I can't understand what you're saying.
She said you eat lentils or black-eyed peas.
Do you eat them?
Do you
Oh, yes, yes. Would you eat lentils? And it's rare we eat black-eyed peas, but we certainly have before. Yeah.
And I had a question about a product called Green Magic, which is like chlorophyll and seaweed and some probiotics. Are you acquainted with that product? And if so, what's your opinion?
Well, I'm not sure that I'm acquainted directly with that particular product, but I think the greens definitely. I think most products that are out there that have greens in it are good. You know, they have changed it from wheatgrass to barley grass, different things over the years, but you know which one has the most nutrition? Something that they couldn't sell for a lot of money, so they've kind of put it off to the side, and that's alfalfa. Alfalfa probably has more nutrition in it than barley grass or wheatgrass. So it's something that you can get. It's inexpensive, and it's something that everyone should be taking some kind of green. If you're not going to do the raw greens, do the powder or do the alfalfa or do the tablets, however it comes. I hope I answered that. Okay.
I have two.
Over there. I'm looking the wrong way.
Can you get the same? You talked about flaxseed oil, but how about the ground flaxseed?
That's a good question. Ground flaxseed I believe in. It does have some omega-3, but it's not enough. But it's great for the colon. It has high lignin in it. The lignin is a fiber that is excellent for the colon itself, and the friendly bacteria will feed off the lignin and grow in the colon. And this is what we want. I'm talking about the friendly bacteria, not the bad. And I definitely would say yes on that. And I'll tell you a good combination. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but good combination would be flax oil, flaxseed, sesame seed, and pumpkin seed. We mix the three together and grind them in a coffee grinder. And it tastes good, and you're getting a lot there. You're getting a lot of zinc from the pumpkin seeds, and you're getting other elements from the other seeds that we might use.
Okay. The other question was, you talked earlier, and you're talking about flaxseed oil and anxiety and panic disorder. Panic attacks.
Did you say coconut oil? Did you?
No, foods that were good for reducing anxiety and panic attacks.
Yeah. What the psychiatrists used was a minimum of 3 tablespoons a day. Tablespoons now, not teaspoons. And in some cases, depending on the weight of the individual, up to 6 if they're very large. He did another study. He went into a maximum security prison in the state of Washington, got permission, and asked for volunteers. And those men, they have nothing better to do. So he got a lot of volunteers. And a lot of them, they were very violent people. And he tested them. And he found out that they had 5,000 times more omega-6 than omega-3. They virtually had no omega-3 at all. He put them on flaxseed oil. And within just a few months, they became model citizens of the prison. Their violent tendencies went down as a result. It was because they were so imbalanced as far as the nutrition in which they took in. Oh, okay. You're getting your exercise.
I have 2 questions. One, Sharon was trying to mention to you, it is in yogurt, it's probiotics and prebiotics. And Dr. Oz talks about it, that it's called the skinny bacteria in your stomach, and they're advising a lot of people eat that, like pickles and anything that can get the pre and probiotics in your stomach.
Okay.
What do you
there's
think of
certain
that?
ones there's certain foods that I would agree with, and not all of them.
Okay.
But definitely sauerkraut that has been fixed.
He mentioned
raw.
that too.
People say that. Pardon me.
He mentioned that too, sauerkraut, pickles, things like that.
Yeah.
He had a big article in a magazine here just recently on this.
Well, sauerkraut is a cultured food. Some people say, oh, it's a fermented food. It's not. It's cultured. It's cultured with bacteria. Cabbage have a lot of bacteria, and friendly bacteria, the good kind, which you need. And when we were in the Ukraine doing missionary work, we had to make our own there because the people, if they even had it, they couldn't afford to buy it. And so we would take cabbage and make it like sauerkraut. We'd put it in water for 3 days, room temperature, completely submerged. And it would taste horrible, smell worse. And we would have them drink this for a probiotic at work.
Okay. All right.
There's other foods too. Lemons, believe it or not, have friendly bacteria. Not only is it cleansing, is that a lot of people will take lemon juice in the first quart of water in the morning, and that helps to cleanse the body. And it does have friendly bacteria with it. Another thing that you want to do with it is after you drink your quart of water is brush your teeth, because it can be hard on the enamel. Other foods that might have it, this is a hard one to believe, garlic. Garlic will kill the bad stuff, but will not hurt the good, and it has good bacteria with it. And that's something the Lord would do. And so we actually did an experiment in Australia, and we took Eden soy, which was a soy milk that you could buy at one time. I don't find it in America anymore. But it had maltodextrin in it, which is a little bit of sugar, which you have to have to culture. And so we actually smashed up the cloves of garlic. We put it into a quart of Eden soy, left it a little, well, actually we put it into an oven that had a pilot light, so it was a little warmer than room temperature. In 8 hours, we had actual yogurt. So it's something you can use. A last one that I might mention, maybe a couple more, would be that bee pollen. Now, a lot of people don't take bee pollen, but bee pollen has a lot of friendly bacteria. So it's a natural way to get your bacteria is through bee pollen or even through miso. Now, I'm not big on soy products, but miso does have a lot of bacteria because it is also a cultured food. And
that's one thing he mentioned, miso soup. Miso soup, that was one.
Yeah, he did mention that?
Yeah, he did mention that in his article. Okay. So we went out and got some miso soup, to see what it was like.
Well, the soup though won't have bacteria because you heat it.
He said miso soup though. I don't know. Just miso?
No.
Okay.
Well, I like what he does. I don't watch the afternoon TV, but
I don't either. I saw it in a newspaper. So.
But the fact is, I think he's incorrect there because anytime you heat it, you're going to kill the bacteria.
Okay.
Yeah.
And another thing, we were talking about the arginine for heart trouble. There's a tablet, and you said you had some paperwork on that.
I told you at lunchtime I was going to get you that phone number.
Did you get that?
I'll have to get it for you after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
But there is arginine. It's called arginine. Pro-arginine is the name of the product. I'm not going to get into. I can give you all the 800 number. You can order it directly from the company, but it's remarkable what it does for the heart. It can almost actually repair the heart. There's a cardio group in Victorville who almost quit doing bypass surgery. And, of course, they're not making the money they used to, but they're selling this particular product. It was developed by a medical doctor to be able to repair the heart. Wow. I took it myself for about 1 year. And I had just a little elevated blood pressure. It runs in my family. It's not diet-related. It's probably more stress-related. And so, anyway, I started taking it until my blood pressure went to 84/52, and I said, this is it, I quit taking it. But it brought it down and stayed down.
Great.
It went back to where the next day it went where it's supposed to be. Mine runs about 110 over about 68, somewhere in there. And I'm fine with that. But before, it was running in the 140s over about 80. It was the diastolic, the low reading was fine, but the upper one is a little high.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yes, and it helps with other cardiac problems as well.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have to always look around and find who's doing.
In order to add more raw foods to our diet, I've started putting the juicing. My mother would be having trouble sometimes with swallowing and chewing. So I did the juicing. So in comparison, the juicing, I guess you don't have the fiber if you juice. So you would want to use the smoothies. Also, just a regular salad would be good. Like you mentioned, Vietnamese. I don't use that because I'm always reading to see if they have vinegar in it, and that has vinegar. So I'm learning that I need to make my own salad dressing. And like you said, you can't do everything at once. I've tried, and then, someone started losing weight really, really heavy. But like you say, do one thing at a time. So my question about the Vietnamese that has vinegar in it, and also the whether juicing or the full smoothie, what do you recommend both?
Okay, I think I got it. If I'm wrong, you might want to keep the microphone just for a minute longer. But I tell you what I prefer is smoothies if a person's healthy, or if they have a health condition that's not a critical health condition. They're not life and death. If you're stage 4 cancer, you have to juice. But if you're not, why not get the whole plant? And you're right, you get the chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is very, very important, and chlorophyll is really close to human blood and chemical makeup. It boosts the body. It's great for the lungs, and particularly if somebody might have lung cancer, it's very good for that. Or any other type of lung problem, chlorophyll is great. So we at the ranch, for the most part, we do some juicing, but we do the smoothies mostly for the guests that come there, because usually they're not that far along in a disease. And it works. And there's been books written about it now. I should have wrote a book 20 years ago, because we think we're one of the first places to do green smoothies. And all of a sudden everybody's doing them now. So I'd like to think I had some influence on that. I probably didn't, but I'd like to think that. But the fact is that it does work. Make those green smoothies. I realize it takes a few minutes to do it. You know how we do the greens is we buy them and we wash them all at the same time. I'll wash my kale, I'll wash my spinach, my parsley, romaine lettuce, and the way we do it is we submerge it in we have a plastic tub, fill it with water, put white vinegar and salt into it. I agitate it with my hand, get it smooth out, put it in there, and let it set for 4 or 5 minutes, and then I rinse it all twice. I pour the water off. Now with spinach, you might want to do it separately. It's always dirty. It's always muddy. So it muddies the water, so to speak, and you might want to do that separate. Don't mix it with the others until you clean it. Now the way we keep it, because we live a long way from our source, at least an hour, is we do it like a flower pot. We have these stainless steel pots, we put water in it, and we stick the roots down in it, or where the roots formerly were, just like you would a flower. We put it in the fridge, and it will last twice as long, plus it'll be hydrated, whereas if you don't do that, it's going to start dehydrating, it's going to start drying out. And then when we need it, we just take it out, we take what we want, put it back in. We have a plastic tub that they're all in. We have separate little containers for each one with water in it. And it's amazing. That's my wife. My wife's always invented some new thing. And it works really well to preserve them. And when you don't live close to a food source and you have to drive, you have to do things like that. And, I can put a spinach. Kale lasts a long time anyway, but the spinach is the one that goes faster. Goes before others. We put it in there, and it'll last 2 weeks or longer. I've had it last 3 weeks. Depends on how old it was in the store, too, because you don't know that. And when you buy it in the store, look at where they've cut the roots off and see if it's turning brown. If it is, it's probably been there a while. You want to find it where it looks like it's just freshly cut. And we try to buy spinach with the roots on it, and we blend roots and all. There's a lot of food value in the roots, so you don't want to miss that opportunity. So, okay.
Someone also said with the juicing, and as you said, the lemon peel. So do you just, if it's organic, like you say, just put everything? I'd heard people say just put the seeds, everything, just blend it up, the grape, the whole things.
Well, one thing, you live down here where lemons grow. People have a lot of lemons in their backyard, and they're not been sprayed. You want to use lemons if you possibly can that have not been sprayed, and you can use peel and all.
Just put the whole thing in there, seeds, everything?
Well, I cut it up, but
okay.
yeah, it might be a little hard on the blender to take the whole thing down.
Oh, and the vinegar, that's what I mentioned in Vietnamese. The mayonnaise, veganaise. What do you think about the vinegar in the veganaise?
Again, I'm sorry?
Ellen White says that vinegar should never enter the stomach. So for that, and vinegar is in everything. It's in our ketchup, it's in our mayonnaise, and even in the veganaise, vinegar is in that too. Mm-hmm. Does that not concern you? Because you said you use that.
No, I think that's fine. If I'm answering the question right. I'm not sure I heard it.
The vinegar.
There's too much echo going on.
Ellen White says...
Well, somebody up front, can they translate for me?
She's asking, she's saying veganaise has vinegar in it.
Oh, okay. You're right, it does, and that can be a problem. Is it, what kind of vinegar? Do you know what's in it?
Everything has vinegar in it. I don't know what type.
Apple cider? Well, I wouldn't have personally a problem with apple cider vinegar, but each person has to make their own choice on that. But to me, because it smells like acid, I don't believe it's a true vinegar. And you're right, Ellen White did say we should stay away from vinegar, but the regular vinegars will kill red blood cells. We know that for a fact. But apple cider will not do that. So I personally don't have a problem. I don't eat a lot of veganaise, but if you look in the trailer over here I'm staying in, I brought some with me, a little jar. So anyway, but I normally don't eat much of it. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have a cousin who's very health conscious, and she won't use a microwave or eat foods that are cooked in microwaves. What are your thoughts?
Okay. So she won't cook them in what now? Microwave. Oh, in the microwave. That's my ears. And with the echo up here, I don't know why. I should probably stand down there. Maybe I could hear it better. But thank you for that. It's a good question. I agree with that. We don't use a microwave either. In our kitchen, we have a microwave over the stove. It doesn't work, but I won't take it out because there'll be a hole up there. We never use a microwave because what it does, it nukes the food. And what little nutrition is in the food is going to greatly damage. So we use conventional type of way to heat foods. And we don't eat a lot of cooked foods, but we do eat some. And we try to eat as much raw as we can. My wife eats a ton of raw. She's almost total raw, not quite. Man, I probably eat more cooked food than she does. Yeah. Any other questions? Well, it looks like it's time for us to close. Yeah, we're tomorrow at 9 o'clock. No, the pastor has arranged for everyone to come first come, first serve. Make it fair that way. To whoever gets there early can go first.
Can I say something on that?
Sure.
Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Okay. They may have a question that I can't answer. Last year when we did the sign-up sheet, we found that people didn't show up for their appointments, and we had people waiting and so forth and so on.
That's right.
Either way, we're going to have people waiting, but at least if enough people come. So we're just going to do it first come, first serve. There is one person that missed out last year that's going to get in first this year. So, anyway. So we're going to do that for that one person. But then at 11 o'clock, just to remind you, he's going to continue on with this anti-aging emphasis. And at that time, you're going to get into actual products that you know of that you can talk about. And we'll do that right here in the sanctuary, okay? Any other questions? I don't know. We'll have to talk to the crew back there. I assume they're back there right now, but anyway, maybe they can answer that when they come out. So the question is, by the way, for those back in the back, they're wondering if this is going to be live streamed and also recorded. Okay. Any others?
I just want to say thank you, and I learned
so
much today. I'll be here.
Okay, it will be taped. Yeah, we do thank you. Okay, if that's it. Oh.
Do you have the prices under?
No, this is Sabbath. We're not going to do that.
No.
But we're going to do that tomorrow, though. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
See, that'll give you an incentive to come.
Yeah. All right. If there's no other questions, why don't we stand for prayer? Would you pray for us?
Sure.
Okay.
Excuse me. Gracious Father, we thank you that we can have this opportunity to share with each other on your health message. I ask, Lord, that everyone would take the principles that we have talked about and apply them into their life so that they too can have a clear mind and a strong body. I thank you for this church. I thank you for the leadership of it and ask a special blessing upon it. For we thank you in the name of our Savior Jesus. Amen.
Okay. Have a good rest of your Sabbath.
Amen.
What would you think of taking those you described?